Evolve 360, a holistic approach to life, is an exploration of learning through experience to transform individually and culturally as a whole by taking a 360-degree look at our quality of life, including the limiting beliefs, worn-out paradigms, and destructive habits that have led us to where we are today, and to instead create or revolutionize a new life vision that brings greater peace, appreciation, fulfillment, clarity, happiness, and joy as we ultimately evolve. So in our last episode, Shelley and I spoke about the prostitute archetype and how we negotiate our power. Well, we do that the entirety of our lives. There's just no getting away from it. She's with us forever while we're here. But in this episode, we're going to discuss the ego and how it contributes to our self-identity as we develop the self-esteem to emerge from our insecurities to our own empowerment. So let's dive in. Welcome to Evolve 360, Shelley Shell Show with hosts
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Devine.
And it's great to be here. Soul sister, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good. Getting used to the new normal, you know. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, they're starting to open things up down there, and they're starting to open things up here, I guess, apparently. They're in their phase 1, I think. Yesterday it started. And
wow.
You know,
Good. We are too, and we're having restaurants open up on Wednesday. So I'm excited, and my hair salon called me and my nail girl, and they're going to be opening up too. So it's really great because I know everybody wants to get back to where we left off. But with that, you know, we've got to do it in a safe way. And
absolutely.
And we're all, you know, before we got on this podcast today, Shelley and I were just talking about a circle, and I'm doing a lot of things to get out of that comfort zone of the circle, just like a lot of us are doing. So one of the things that I'm doing, which is really brand new to me, is I'm throwing a virtual baby shower.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I know, right? I mean, who would have thought? Thank God for Zoom.
Yeah.
And thank God for friends and family that, you know, give me all these great ideas. But it's just going to be really cool. And I know a lot of people, some people are getting married on Zoom.
Wow.
They're throwing like weddings. I know of a couple that did a Zoom wedding because they just wanted to get married, and hey, why not, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about being aware of where you are and then stepping out of that comfort zone and just that circle. But we have to do it in a way that is good for where we are, because not everybody is ready to just, you know, unveil themselves on a podcast like you and I are doing, right?
Yeah, that's a bit scary. I mean, for people to hold even their phone in front of their face and videotape themselves and whatever. I remember doing that a couple of years ago before I started doing the podcasting, and it was pretty intense. You had to, like, you're self-conscious. You'll have a thought, and then that thought just goes out, and you're like, oh no, you freeze. What am I going to talk about now?
I know, right?
Like, what was I talking about? You know, so it gets a little tough. And then too, you're like micromanaging. Oh, wow, that hair is out of place, or, you know, or something. And you're just feeling like you might just not be good enough. And which leads us into today's topic of the ego.
Oh, I love the ego. And the show today is fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And that used to be our mantra, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before we start, we want to set an intention for the show, because we want to get as much out of it as we can. And yes, we're growing along with the show, just like all our audiences are and listeners too. Because every time that we get on a call or, you know, pre-tape, we're like, wow, this is so crazy, deep, intense, and it just makes you more aware. But with that awareness, the intention that we want to set for the show today is listen in.
Yeah, cool.
Only when we find the quietness of our mind can we begin to hear our inner teacher. So we need to do that so we can receive some intuition. Only when we're ready to recognize and value the wisdom that we carry at the core of our soul, then we can turn our attention to listen. So with that, we're going to start the show, and we're going to talk about fake it till you make it.
And how do we fake it till we make it? I mean, as a teenager, as an adult, as going through my 20s, trying to be who I am now, maybe. I don't know. It's a journey. It's a life journey, right? But
Yes.
It's about it's not about faking it anymore. We've had enough of faking it, which is kind of out there in society now. Everybody's kind of like,
right.
You can't determine, which we talked about in some of the other podcasts, what's truth and what's the lie or something or false. And no longer that's working. So this fake it till you make it is really not, maybe it might be a belief that should be dismantled.
I think it is a belief. I remember taking business courses when I was starting my business way back, right when we met. And that was the mantra. You pretend that you're the guru. You pretend that you've got it going on, and you're like, but I really don't. Yeah. And it's like, fake it till you make it. And I remember way back, like in the early 2000s, when people were jumping on the internet and they were just getting ready to roll out their businesses. That was the big mantra back then.
Yeah. Yeah. And pretending that you're the expert when really, maybe you're not. And you have to grow into that through experience and learning. And it takes some patience and some time with yourself to take in and learn a new skill or a new profession, and to be able to, life experience teaches you. It's about like being and doing and not about like just what comes in, and in your head. I guess you have to kind of almost, feel it.
You have to embrace it
and
feel comfortable
and
too.
Touch it and then have many occurrences where it becomes you to really kind of put it out there. The fake it till you make it thing. I mean, like, just imagine if you're a martial artist and you go into a gym. This has happened a lot, is you're a white belt. That's usually the when you enter a dojo or a martial arts studio, and you're a beginner. And can you imagine going into a studio acting like you know how to, defend yourself against maybe a black belt or somebody who's, been practicing that art for a year? You can't fake it. You're going to be revealed. The falseness of it is going to be revealed.
Let me tell you something right now,
when you lift up your hands and you're like out here trying to throw a punch. So you can't fake it.
I wouldn't fake it till I make it with you in a ring, because I know how good you are, and I know how long you've been doing, martial arts, just about all your life.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm not going to be doing anytime soon. I'll just be cheering from the sidelines.
I started late in life though with that, but I think I've always been a fighter. So I mean, I think that was
you have that warrior energy.
Yeah, I do.
But getting back to like the fake it till you make it, that's why we have to go inside and listen in to what serves ourselves. There's so many people out there giving us tons of information, and that's what we wanted to talk about today, the ego. And how we latch on to things that might not serve us because we want to be accepted or valued or be in the in crowd or join a tribe. And that's really, in the end, sometimes, yes, we do that because they're a lesson that we do. It's like a fate and destiny, which we're going to talk about in another episode, because we all have our destiny, but sometimes we have fate because of the choices that we make. So you learn about these choices through listening to what is good for you. And I remember, Shelley, we were talking about that. We went to a workshop once, remember? And we walked out. It just wasn't serving us.
Oh, yes. Yes. It had, well, it was interesting because we wanted to learn about, which will be the topic of our next podcast, power. And sexual power though, however. And so we went to,
But in a good way.
like
Right.
in a good way, like,
Right.
but how it was presented through a guru type professional, I guess, or
Event.
expert
Right.
at the event. The expert treated himself like a guru and like this, I don't know, god of sex.
Well, we walked out because we weren't going to be there. So
it just
we
didn't.
were listening to our inner selves
Yeah.
and tapping in, because if it doesn't serve you and you need to feel it, it's like, we weren't even there like 15 minutes. We both looked at each other and were like, we're out of
What's going
here.
on here? Yeah.
No, we had a great day. We went back to the hotel and hung at the pool and just relaxed and just, it was great. But that's what we're trying to say today, that we have to be very careful of where we go and what we do, because sometimes our ego leads us through this dark path.
Yeah.
Dark path of, not in our best interest.
Yeah. Sometimes we're trying to seek ourselves and fit in, or to feel a certain way, and to develop a certain confidence within ourselves. And we're trying to understand, within our personal relationships and our work environment, how to evolve in that while being, while being secure. Like our insecurities show up. Like if we feel like, oh, I'm not good enough in this relationship, and this is where our ego comes in, and it says to you to kind of falsely present yourself in a way that might not be truly you. Like it can show up in ways like, well, I don't really like wearing, like, say you don't like wearing makeup, but now you're going to wear makeup because you want to attract your man, and you're going to be somebody you're not. And that's kind of like going to maybe that workshop that we went to. We realized that this isn't really who we are, and we don't want to be a part of this. And we instantly knew that, oh, this wasn't what we thought it was, for one. But the ego dynamic was there. I don't know if it was necessarily our egos that were involved, but we sensed a huge ego dynamic with this guru concept of, I am the god of this, that, and the other thing, and you should all worship me. And this man's ego was like, I mean, tremendous. And there was a lot of dark energy around it, and where other people are looking to him who might not be sexually confident, and they're looking at him like he's like this amazing person because he wrote this book. But he went beyond. The book was good, but he went beyond into this, I don't know. And there was just a lot of, some really dark places that could get people caught up in doing things that they didn't want to do because their own egos were weak, and they were looking for some sort of strength outside of themselves instead of inside themselves. And what I mean, what was happening, there were people in the audience that probably went to these workshops frequently, and what they would do is scout out and find the vulnerable, male or female, and then interact with them energetically. And the one that was weak, and their ego, their own self-esteem was weak, and they couldn't say no, like, using the prostitute and stuff, the seduction and stuff, where we're still got a little of that, bringing that into this show. But they were preying on these people and then bringing them to their room and having sex with them. And we instantly figured that out.
We learned about that later because we had left.
Yes.
Like we kind of just
but I think we sensed it. We sensed it. We totally sensed
that wasn't for us.
That it wasn't for us. We could feel this enormous kind of egomaniac That's,
Right. What we're trying to say is, it's,
we have to
and
be
I guess because
careful.
we were together, we're like, we're out of here. And sometimes it's hard to detach from
Yeah.
the situation that you're in because of the fact that, what are people going to say? And that's your ego talking.
Yeah.
When it really is in your best interest to get up and get out.
Yes.
And not stay. Because if you stay, then it might not be in your best interest. So at least Shelley and I had the wherewithal to just look at each other and know immediately, like, whoa, we didn't even ask for a refund. I mean, we just wanted to run away as fast as we could.
Exactly.
And that's, that's part of listening inside, because your ego will fake you all the time. Egos are great. We need them. They keep us safe. They keep us, at a point. But we're going to unpack that ego and make that ego move to the side today, because we want to talk about the ego and the soul, and how you need to listen in so you can start listening to what your soul is trying to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the ego is basically about, showing you where your self-esteem needs to grow. and you need to start to discern. This is a word that it's one word that we're carrying through several of our podcasts, and even in the future podcasts. It's all about discerning what's going on internally. What is the voice that you're listening to internally? Is it your ego talk where you have insecurities and self-doubt, and that's trying to protect you and say, you know what? You should still go in this direction because it will build your portfolio for this, that, or the other thing, so you look really good in that limelight of wherever it is that you want to do. I mean, that would be your ego talking, where on the other side, your inner voice might say, man, I need to relax. I need to chill and really see the full spectrum of this. If I go down that road, what is that really going to do for me? Am I going to diminish time here between whatever it is that might be that you value, that is truly important to your internal integrity?
You're moving forward. Yeah. You're moving forward. And we see that a lot in, like, I'm more from a corporate environment, and we see that a lot in a corporate environment where sometimes you have to go along because you want to get that promotion, or you want to be recognized, or you want to be seen. And as you listen to your inside, that maybe, you don't want to be associated with those people because they're bullies. And we find those people in all types of environments. Mm-hmm. You have the guru that takes you down that road. Then you have other things that happen, and, you want to be attached to that part because of the reasons that you have. And we talked about the seduction of ourselves in the last podcast, and how we, can use the energy of the prostitute. Now, these archetypes, if we're using them in the light, and if we understand the reasons why they're there to move us forward, it's all about awareness. And that's why we need to check in with ourselves to make sure that that is where we have to be. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to not be where we need to be. We go back to the, you need to take care of yourselves first. Mm-hmm. And, if you know that something isn't working out for you, then run, get up and run, like Shelley and I did from that event. We just ran.
Yeah, we did. And then we had a nice day by the pool, soaking up some sun, and had a very nice time. But also, like, identifying what the ego really is. It's about your self-identity. It's part of your personality, and it's about your personality coming into a full spectrum of who it is you truly are. And in the beginning, in our early years, say we're just starting out, we got out of high school, we're going through college, and then we're, maybe out in the workforce, and we feel like we have to prove ourselves. Well, the ego is the one that's saying you got to prove yourself. And we're pushed dynamically in that direction from a young age. I mean, our parents, the school systems, they're all kind of pointing us in that direction. So we want to keep up with everybody else, our peers and everything, but that's not you truly being your authentic self when you're looking externally. It's like being on a yoga mat. The yoga teacher's telling you, don't be looking around you, comparing yourself to everybody else. keep your focus on your mat. And keeping your focus on your mat is one way to bring you within yourself and to listen to the guidance that is naturally your own intuition that is coming in and guiding you to be who you truly are. The challenges with that, though, however, are sometimes with who we truly are and having the courage to be brave and speak that truth is a whole other matter. We may hide that for a while. Because we're afraid, and your ego, I mean, like it's your ego is such a cool thing, but it also can be like that thing that
it could be like that little best friend that tells you, and you're like, no, and they're like, yeah. And we are involved in relationships all the time. Work relationships, spouse relationships, partnership relationships, lover relationships with ourselves, with our family. And a lot of times, like Shelley said, it's hard to say, hey, wait up, this is not who I am. This is not what I want to be. That's why it's so important to talk to people and to get more information and to listen. Because let's say you're in a relationship, like we were saying earlier, and the person wants you to wear makeup, or, if it's a guy that, the woman wants you to have like these big biceps, and that's not really, who you are. And you go out there and you get the latest makeup, you spend all this money, you start wearing it, and it's not you. It's not you, and you don't feel comfortable. And but you're doing it. It's your ego telling you, oh yeah, but you really want this, and this is what you really want. Well, is it really what you want, or is it your ego talking? What is it that you want? You need to be your authentic self. And to do that, you have to just stop and go within and see if this is serving you, and in what way is it serving you. And sometimes we align ourselves with people and relationships because we have to go through these lessons to just get us over the hump and make us better. And the ego's there telling you, that's when the soul starts trying to come out. And, the ego and the soul have like a competition.
It's a battle. It's a
little battle, the battle of the wills, right? Yeah. And the soul's trying to tell you, hey, like you have this little voice in your head going, is that really what you want to do? Do you really want to wear all that makeup? Do you really want those false eyelash extensions? I know. Is that what you really want?
Yeah.
Or
so you gotta decide who is gonna be the one ruling the show, who's gonna be driving, who's got the reins. And through your life, you have to identify who's going to be the boss internally. Is it your ego, or is it your true self, your true inner voice that is connected to source, that is connected with your soul? And is that going to be really the true voice? And are you going to follow that, or are you going to follow your ego? And the warrior totally comes into play with that dynamic. You can't not have an ego without a warrior battling inside you. It's that yin and yang kind of thing happening that internally goes on inside all of us. Years ago, in my martial arts training, this comes from, I think it's, and I never know if I'm saying this stuff right, but it's James DeMile, Sijo James DeMile, and he coined the phrase "the monster." And he was a student of Bruce Lee, so that's probably somebody you might know. And his whole concept was you had to keep the monster leashed, and then you only unleash it when maybe when you're threatened, or you have to put some force behind something. You have to kind of fight for your right to whatever it may be. But basically, the monster is the ego. And it can be really seriously vicious when you go really deep into the dark crevices of what the ego can represent. But it can also be, like the prostitute, an ally, where it can come up and protect you in those fight, flight, or freeze instances. And your warrior will help you rein that in and either leash that beast or monster,
Unleash the monster.
or unleash it when you need to unleash it to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And I learned that early on, and it really kind of stuck with me. And I can remember dealing with my own ego, being a healer, and being aggrandized as a healer, thinking that I was better than other healers, and I would be like looking at them poo-pooing because they only knew a certain level. They didn't know to bring, the person down from wherever it was, and they would just be kind of. And then I realized, you know what, I do the same thing that this person does, and my ego is just
Isn't that something? Because
it's out. I'm projecting it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like the lesson's right in your face. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing this too.
Yeah.
And this is not where I want to go. But I think a lot of us go through that stages in our lives where we're trying to find ourselves, and we're trying to see our identity, especially as when you're younger, or when you've had to start all over again with a career, or maybe, a life. Let's say that your life just totally, you got divorced, or something happened where you had to start all over again. So you have to get that footing, and you're not on solid ground. And I think when you're grounded and you're really, attuned to who you are, and just tapping into, like, vertically aligning yourself, like we're gonna talk more about with source, then self-esteem plays into this so much. And we have this killer show coming up on self-esteem, because when our self-esteem isn't solid within ourselves, that's when our ego tends to go out there into the wild blue yonder. Let's just go wild, hog wild. And that's what happens. My past, I used to model professionally, and I would see that a lot, where people would overextend their personal boundaries because they wanted to make sure that they got the show, they got the gig, that they got booked. And, we have to talk about that, about how, the ego can just go to a place where there's no regard for your personal boundaries. There's no regard for you. And you have to be very careful. You have to keep it in check, because how far are you willing to go out there? And you have to listen, because sometimes it's not in your best interest. You have to be very careful, and you have to discern. I love the word discernment, because it's, what do you want? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? And then your values and everything else plays into that, because you want to make sure that you feel good with yourself, that you don't do anything that in the future is going to, take away from who you are. And we have another show on giving your power. Your power is so important. And so many times we tend to give it out there to everybody. So listen to yourself inside. And we have a special surprise for you at the end of the show that we put together, and you're going to love it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I just, bouncing back from what you just said, is the ego is that intellectual side that's going to tell you to do this, that, or the other thing, to either compete with somebody or to disregard somebody else. So you're in favor. So yourself, you shine a little bit here or there as opposed to someone else. But intuitively, you somehow sense, this is the voice that comes in, that is your authentic self, that says, how am I? And it doesn't go with, the laws, the laws of truth. How am I hurting this other individual? Like, what am I actually, is it harming someone else somehow? And it's coming into your intuition as opposed to reasoning, or the intellectual things, that the tangible things that seem to make sense, but actually really don't. And ignore, the ego will be that way, where the true inner authentic self will be one of intuition, and it'll be that gut feeling that we've often talked about in these podcasts, of sensing that, wow, that just doesn't feel right. And you probably will feel it in your body at some point, somewhere in your body, that says, ooh,
you have to check where. Exactly.
Yeah.
And self-esteem is usually your gut.
Yeah.
Like that's where you get hit in your gut when something's not right.
Yeah.
And you have to check because it's important, like Chelley's saying.
Mm.
You know, and you bring up some really good points there, because we have to tune into our energy field. We have to see how we're feeling in where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah, it's our best guidance and navigation system that we can use to direct us and show us when we're off course, show us when maybe the ego is protecting us, but then also showing us where we're maybe feeling superior towards somebody else, or we want something, we want our stuff, and how are we going to hang on to it, and how are we going to keep it? And that's all ego. It's prostitute too, but it's ego talking through the prostitute. And
And maybe there's an opportunity that comes up at work, or maybe and your ego, because of your past experience, is saying, no, don't do it.
mm,
This is not a good thing for you.
mm,
I can feel it already. And you're like, you haven't even done anything. And it's like your mind talk, it's the little gnats in your head.
yeah. And it's that unknown part that your spirit and your soul wants to go to, that you're not listening to, but that could be like the best possible thing ever for you, what better than your wildest dreams, and you're not following it because you're so intent on following what your ego's saying, because it's tangible, and
like your rational mind, right?
Yeah, so this is all about, like, how we talked about illusion and false illusions. Well, your ego is your false identity. It's an illusion, and it creates separateness from all that is. And to understand that and know that, you begin to once you start to grasp that, you begin to come more truly in line with yourself and your true essence, that is aligned with your soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, and your true inner voice, and
Absolutely.
proceeding.
And a great exercise is putting on a piece of paper, what would happen, let's say, if you took that job, or what would happen if you started dating that person, or marrying that person, because you're scared and your ego's like, no, you've already been married. Why are you going to get married again? Or, like, there's no good men out there. There's no good women out there, all these mind tapes. So just put on a piece of paper, what are the benefits and what are the non-benefits, and, sit with that. Because a lot of times the ego acts as like a fear thing. It immediately pops up, and it's like a when you're cooking on your stove and there's too much smoke and your smoke alarm goes off. That's your ego. It's like, no. So, and Shelley's right. You could have such a great opportunity pass you by because of the ego.
Yeah.
That 3-letter word. So are we going to jump into the surprise?
Let's see, there were a couple other things. Maybe we are there. Do we cover unraveling your soul?
Oh no.
Yeah, let's get that in, because you wrote some nice stuff about that.
We were talking, because we do this great brainstorm mastermind before we do our podcast. And we were talking about the soul. The soul is like think of a sweater that you have, and you pull the thread, you're walking around, and it starts, like, all of a sudden it starts taking the thread off, all of a sudden you have holes. Well, the ego, our soul, is like that thread. When we start trying to pull at it, and we start listening to it, it starts unraveling a whole new world for us. And you want to tell them more about what we were talking about, Shelley, when it comes to that, because it was such a profound conversation, and it's very subtle. It comes to you at the most inopportune moments, and usually when we're not in our rational mind thinking stuff. Usually when I'm driving, a lot of stuff comes in because you're not really focusing on anything that's, I don't want to say important because you're driving, but it's more like passive. Your brain is more in passive mode. And all of a sudden, like, a thought comes into your mind, and that's that thread, which is your soul. And then you pull at that thought, and maybe another thought comes. So you start unraveling that ego, and you start unpacking that ego with just these little thoughts and these little wisps. And before you know it, you can get some really great information if you allow it and listen into it. So this is what we wanted to say about, think of a thread on a sweater that you pull, and that's your soul. That little thread is your soul. It's like the little wisp. So it's really cool how things are so subtle or so profound, right?
I love that analogy because
Yeah.
it's so true. And oftentimes those times, maybe when you're in the shower or you're driving, that's kind of when your soul, because you're kind of like, maybe you're on the road and you're kind of just driving down the highway,
trance, right?
and you get into a trance. Well, that's kind of a form of meditation, as long as you don't fall asleep. And then you wind up someplace. This has happened to me before. You wind up somewhere, and you're like, "Where the hell am I? I was supposed to go home," or you get on autopilot or something. But oftentimes a lot of creative ideas and your imagination starts to go because you start to relax and you start to actually come into maybe the moment. And it's kind of crazy how driving will do that for you. Sometimes even being in the shower or sitting on the toilet, like
cleaning the house,
doing
laundry
that are mindless, and we're just kind of focused at the task at hand, brings us sometimes into the moment, and our ego will slip out, and then this opportunity for your soul to come in, and all those wonderful things that you want to do or you want to explore start to come in, and we just need to learn to kind of, oh, well, I don't need to be afraid of that. I'm not separate from everything else. I need to kind of connect with this and listen and allow it to come in. And then when we get into the whole, manifesting and creating our lives, this is a really important part of it, because we need to connect with the emotions. That how is it going to make us feel? As opposed to, being driven by the ego and I need to prove myself. There's kind of like a sense of like, why do I need to prove myself? Can't I just improve myself instead of
I like that
something?
Yeah, because it's not about competition.
No.
Because usually you're competing against yourself too.
Always.
You go. Yeah. I mean, I can attest to that. You're type A, you're always career minded, working, trying to, you don't write one book, you write 6, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's an important point. It's a very important point.
Yeah. And that whole idea of, circling back to that fake it while you make it, the whole thing about that, or until you make it, it's people, I think the world is different. It's changing, where
Totally
we appreciate where people are at, and we appreciate vulnerability and being open about, talking about your life experience, your failures, because the ego is afraid to fail. The ego does not want to fail. And if we fail all the time, that's how we grow. So, I mean, it's how we grow. And to get anywhere successfully, you have to experiment and try things out.
And you're going to fail.
And you're going to fail until you kind of get it right. I mean,
and nobody tells you it's okay to fail. I mean, look at all the successful businessmen and businesswomen that are out there. All these women that are career moms, all these dads that have a bunch of stuff on their plate.
Yeah.
I'm sure they failed.
Yeah. I mean, I had to take tests in my martial arts training. I didn't complete like the first time I went for maybe my blue belt. I had to, test it again, or my brown belt for that matter. I ended up testing twice, because the first time I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, I failed. I got injured. I felt like, oh, I failed. But then I went back and I did it again. And how often do we do that? But that sense of humiliation is the ego coming into play. Right. Like when we feel like we failed.
And like, did you pass? And you're like, well, I don't know. I haven't gotten my score yet.
Yeah, right? And you don't want to tell anybody because you're embarrassed if, you got a D instead of an A or whatever, or whatever, however you measure yourself shows up with the ego. And yeah.
But it's okay, because we're all there. And what we want everybody to know is that the more you fail, I mean, not that we want you to fail, but there's richness to come out of that, because now you know what not to do.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? Failure is an opportunity to begin again, but in a different way. I don't remember who said that. I think it was Henry Ford when he was making his millionth car, and it wasn't still going. And now look. So, you know, I love looking back to the people that have been very successful from the past, because you learn so many lessons from them as to how they, you know, started putting their empires together. And, you know, we were talking about this the other day with some person that we read about online, that she, you know, she was really successful, and we're like, you know, oh, we, you know, everybody's like, yeah, she just started her company and she's like making all this money. Well, what people didn't know is that she'd been in the company for like 7 years, plugging along, churning, right, every day.
Yeah, doing the work, getting
doing
in
the
there,
work,
getting her hands in and creating and doing what she kind of needed to do. She was authentic, you know, in going about doing that, but it wasn't, somebody else you know, told the story that it was, you know,
overnight.
She just you know, implied that it was overnight, but no, it was this gradual progression of evolution in her business and in developing herself, I'm sure. And she just probably followed her own inner guidance. You know, maybe fell back, ego came in here or there, but like followed her inner guidance to become, you know, maybe that's successful. But I can guarantee it didn't come out.
It's like overnight success.
Yeah. That doesn't typically happen.
You gotta train, and you gotta get ready for when that opportunity takes over. And that's why you have to listen to make sure that you're on the road for everything to align itself with you for those opportunities. So you can listen to where you really are, instead of not being authentic and getting kind of blindsided by your ego and about situations and about what other people think that you should be doing, like faking it until you make it. And then an opportunity passes you by, and you realize down the road that you're not happy, you're not in alignment.
Right.
You know, you have aches and pains, and you wonder why, because you're not being true to you. You have to be true to you.
Yeah. And you have to present that in the world. If you don't know something, it's okay to say, I don't know. Can you share? I know I appreciate that more than somebody trying to, you know, come in and say this, that, or the other thing, and trying to teach me a thing that I know that they don't know. And
exactly.
And I'll tell you, I've been in more dates where men have like tried to tell me something about the UFC, and I'm like, are you kidding? Do you know who you're talking to? And they know, because I'm like upfront about it. I'm like, I work with this person, that person. I've been involved in this for I don't know how many years. And you're sitting there saying this, that, or the other thing to try and impress me, because they felt, but there was a period of time.
But it was their ego.
So, his ego would be out, and then mine would get incensed.
But it's ego, because if they just like sat back and just, you know, had a chill conversation, and I think it also comes within, you know, you're nervous, you want to make a good impression, you know.
But
you know,
I would have so appreciated it more if they would just like respected me and allowed me to be a woman that knew actually something about a sport that a guy didn't know, you know. And I'm like, why are you trying to be?
Well, you're full of all kinds of mysteries, my friend.
Oh, I know.
I mean, look at you. You can kick some butt.
Yeah. But it's funny because my ego matched his ego, you know, with my own.
Really? Cool. So you had like an ego thing.
Yes. And it's like, this is how we interact. We do this on a global level, country to country, you know, like
all the time.
I mean, our nation has an ego, you know, like
we're Big Brother, right? I mean, we're going to talk archetypal. We have a big show coming up in July.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be a must
we
listen.
are perceived as the big brother of the world, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, but we're gonna. So that's why, you know, we're the big brother, right?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm gonna go back is, you know, there's the hero's journey too, about the ego.
We didn't talk about the hero's journey.
Okay, so we'll let that go for another day. Do you think?
I think we could do a whole show on the hero's journey.
Oh, well, maybe we should. Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know. What do you guys think? We want to know what our listeners want to hear, but
Yeah, exactly.
from what we've done, I think the hero's journey would be a great,
The heroine's journey.
the heroine's journey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's both the hero, heroine, same thing.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to the ego, the whole thing about the ego is the ego basically has to die or be, well,
Or maybe
die,
just
like
like
the
come
death
out.
of the ego. It needs to
Right.
be, you know, you need to discern which is which. So, and what inside you is going to control you? What, you know, are you going to control the ego and take the reins and say, okay, I'm controlling this show, meaning your inner voice with your soul, which is connected to
Right.
yours.
You have to listen in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to listen in.
Yeah.
So when that ego gets in the way, you put him in timeout, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's that simple. It is that simple.
It's not simple because we all want to be right. We all want to be the best. It's part of nature.
Easier said than done. It's simple, but it's easier said than done to actually execute it.
Right. But
Right?
every day you try. It's like working out.
Yeah.
You're the workout queen. I'm like, mañana.
I like manana. Yeah. I like that
I
too.
like
I like
mañana. I work out in my mind. So
cool.
anyways, are we ready for the surprise? You guys are going to
Yes.
be a big treat. Okay, I'm getting ready.
So I have a meditation prepared. So if you want to go to the bathroom or anything like that before we start, just I'll put it on pause for
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Okay. And so now as we come back, we're going to go within and get comfortable.
Driving, please don't do this driving.
Don't do it while driving. Just find a comfortable seated position, or you can lie down. And what you're going to do is just start to come into your breath. Just like we did before. You can close your eyes, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And notice your natural breathing rhythm as you inhale through the nose and exhale through slightly parted lips. Feel the rise and fall of the chest, the expansion of the rib cage, and how your belly blows up much like a balloon as you inhale, and as you exhale, how your belly deflates, your rib cage compresses, and your chest falls. So just follow that. And as you continue to follow your breath, relax by bringing your awareness to each body part, starting at your toes. And maybe begin to relax your legs through your reproductive organs and your hips, up through your chest, going all the way to the crown of your head. And with each inhalation and each exhalation, just completely relaxing. And as you get to the crown of your head, then bring your awareness to the center of your brow at your third eye. If this is difficult, you can take your middle finger and lightly touch right in front, right at your brow, the top of your nose, between your eyes. And just lightly, so you can focus in there. Your eyes are closed and you just focus there. And bring your awareness there. You want to hold your attention there as you breathe. And just begin to relax even more deeply. So as your awareness is focused at your brow, let's talk about the ego, your ego. Your ego is the voice inside you that says, I am superior, or I am inferior. I am deserving or I am not deserving. I am enough or I am not enough. I am significant or I am unworthy. The ego says, I need to prove something or I will fail. People like me if I achieve something. These are the thoughts we need to tame. They are the thoughts that prevent us from being our authentic self. So take a deep breath in and exhale it. And let's go deeper. Again, come back and focus your attention at your third eye. And ask yourself, what illusions have you repeated over and over again in your mind? What stories do you tell yourself to feel better, but deep down, you don't? Now ask, who do you feel superior to? What is it about them that makes you cringe? This is the way your ego alerts you to something inside yourself that you do or dislike about yourself. Be brave and ask, am I capable of doing that which I do not like? Now bring your hands to your heart center and begin to feel love and compassion radiate for yourself and the other, that other person that you feel superior to. Feel the love expand in your heart. Now bringing your awareness back to your third eye in case it left, imagine a mirror in front of you and gaze inside it. You see that person looking back at you, the one that you feel superior to, the one that makes you cringe. Now, as you're looking in their eyes, feel their insecurities, their anxieties, feel their humanity, and then say to them, may you be well. May your mind, heart, and soul feel joy and happiness. May you feel safe and free. May you have all your hopes and dreams fulfilled. Now feel the oneness as you look into the mirror and realize you are the one that is looking back at you. You are the same as that person in front of you that you feel superior to. Release the belief that you are separate from all else. Release the idea that you are at the center of all that surrounds us. Release the idea that your very identity exists simply because you are the one creating the thought. Understand that you are connected to the whole of life. There is no separation. Feel your well-being. Feel you are free from suffering in the knowing we are all one. Now expand your awareness with loving kindness. Feel your heart expand. Feel yourself begin to observe the sounds and thoughts come and go. Observe your head and notice where the sound around you is, or is it inside you? What are you really? Who are you? Now visualize every atom in your body. Feel it. Every atom in your body. Feel them coming together to form you. Imagine whatever holds them together, whatever holds you together, begins to disintegrate. And that energy expands outward in all directions infinitely, into the cosmos, to God the Father. Feel yourself come into the light and feel the bliss of connection. Feel being part of the universe and the present moment, and be still. Who are you? Take a deep breath in. And now come back. Come back to your body by wiggling your fingers and your toes. Begin to move your body in subtle motions as your energy comes back inside you. Now feel the energy ground from the crown of your head down to your toes as it passes through your third eye, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, down through the belly, down through the perineum, down through your feet, all the way down to the center of the earth as it connects with the mother, the earth's core. And send her love and bring her energy back up, up through your root, your red root chakra, up through your navel to your solar plexus, and let it rest in your heart. And feel the power and beauty of love, and hold that union in your heart, because that is who you really are. Now bring your palms together at heart center and begin to rub them to create a friction. And then place them gently over your eyes, massaging your eyes in one direction, little circles, and then in the other. And then press them in and slowly release them. Namaste.
That was so beautiful. We hope that you enjoyed it as well, but that was so beautiful. Thank you for that gift.
You're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Oof.
Yeah, wow. So a little recap of the show. Being your authentic self goes a long way. People appreciate you for where you are, who you are on your life's journey. They prefer transparency and the truth about who you are. So that old philosophy of fake it till you make it in your career or wherever else you're doing it, it's old and worn out. So you can let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Anything you'd like to add there, girl?
No, but that meditation was just so beautiful, because in the end, it is the mirror of our soul, ourselves. Yeah. And I just can't wait to share with everyone our next episode on power.
Yeah. Ooh. Maybe we should just leave it there, because that one is, man, that's like a full, let that one lie where it is, because it's a loaded one. Power is, there's so much.
High voltage.
High voltage.
High voltage.
So thank you. Thank you again for joining us with this Naked Ego Talk with
Cheli Grace
and Shelley Devine. And if you enjoyed the show, please go ahead and leave a review, because it helps people find the show. And on that review, mention how we might have inspired or motivated you. And never miss an episode. Never miss an episode. From Evolve 360 by remembering to subscribe, download on iTunes, or follow us at facebook.com/Evolve 360 Life. This is Cheli Shell with
And Cheli Grace with Shelley Devine, right?
something. We gotta come up with a better way to do that. With life unplugged, raw and real. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much. And don't forget to listen to yourself.